Japan is a country with which I've had a fascination since my teenage years. Perhaps the most surprising fact is that I haven't yet visited the country that I've often spoken of to my friends and family. It's always seemed so distant and unachievable due to the price of plane tickets from the UK. The JET program first hit my radar at the age of 14 when I discovered a YouTube channel called Abroad in Japan. Chris Broad, the presenter of the channel, explored Japan and documented his experiences as he went. How did this Englishman like me get to and live in Japan? He went through a government-sanctioned program known as JET, Japanese Exchange and Teaching. The program itself was founded in 1987 as a way to expose young Japanese people to those of different nations, creating international connections and ambitions for an otherwise globally secluded civilian population. The Economist reports that only 24% of Japanese people have a passport, and this share has slowly fallen. On the JET program, one is expected to perform cultural exchange duties, taking part in Japanese culture and sharing one's own, which could be from one of over 70 countries. The UK has had one of the larger intakes internationally, with the USA being at the top. I knew that I wanted to take part in this program, so I started to investigate how I might do that. The first thing I needed was a degree. This was no trouble at all. I planned ahead and I figured I would become a teacher, helping students learn about what I find most interesting, history. So I did my degree and off I went. Except that's not quite true. Knowing I wanted to be a teacher and knowing the JET program is not a career, as it has a maximum stay of up to 5 years, I decided to train for teaching before applying to the program. 1 year extra never hurt anyone. Except in the UK, you now need to be in full-time teaching for 2 more years to become a fully qualified teacher. It's amazing how quickly life gets on top of you and how soon the pursuit of your dream becomes clouded by the shroud of responsibility in life. Car payments, housing contracts, even just having the spare time to fill in the forms sufficiently. When would I have the guts to apply? I was sat in my living room having settled down for the evening, ready to act upon a promise to watch a film recommendation by a colleague of mine. Whisper of the Heart is a Studio Ghibli movie that had remained far from my radar when the likes of Ponyo, Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle had occupied the top slots of UK Netflix's Ghibli catalogue. I figured the film would be cute and explore fantastical elements in some way. What I was presented with was a story about the pursuit of one's dream. Shizuku dreams of being a creative writer and Seiji longs for a life making violins. Both are presented with challenges. Both pursue them anyway. Here I was, letting challenges limit the pursuit of my dreams. It's true that I let the rambunctious woes of life drown out the whisper of my heart. The thought lingered on my mind. I sat in near complete darkness for half an hour just thinking. Then, I opened my laptop, I found my country's JET program website, and I committed myself to following my dream. Once the application process was finished, I played the waiting game. It's a challenging game where the one rule is to wait. Eventually, I opened the email that caused a cavalcade of heartbeats to echo through my chest. I was invited up to Edinburgh's consulate, chosen for the fact a friend of mine lives there, and I found my way to the interview. During the day, I grabbed a tea at a coffee shop and waited. I walked up, looked at the castle, then grabbed another tea. I even visited a bookshop and bought some books that I've yet to actually read. But finally, the moment was upon me. Passport in hand, I entered. They took me to a waiting room where some Japanese snacks sat on the table. Too nervous to eat any, I sat until they called me through. I checked potential questions. I'd done research. I reread my personal statement and I was ready. Nervous, but ready. Sat in a room with 2 interviewers and a pile of answers prepared in my head, I was met with questions that seemed to stump me. How will you show the difference between the countries of the UK? Okay, sure. I've lived in Wales, I'm currently in Scotland, and I grew up in England. Easy. Wait. My mind drew a blank. My first thought was food, and I rambled on about Welsh cakes and Eccles cakes, being similar yet different. I spouted about different types of dancing. Will you be performing these dances? He asked. I suppose I could learn, I said as I let out a defeated chuckle. Everything else seemed to fly by and the interview was soon done. I shook hands, left the consulate and felt empty. Not sure how it went, knowing that I wouldn't find out for months if I got the position or not. Again, the waiting game. Oh boy. April came and I was on the edge of every chair I sat on. Eventually the email came through. Please read carefully. Never had I been so careful. I was in. Luckily, it was during my half-term holidays, so I had a few days to sort out as much of the paperwork as I could. Some paperwork you have longer to complete. You need to acquire an international criminal background check and have a health check, for instance, which takes longer than the week or so we were given. But here I am, nervous, excited, and ready to open a new chapter of my life. Hopefully, I'll document the process here, to share in my experience, and give a look at what life is really like for a bald man in Japan.